Hello everyone, it's good to be with you. My name is Glenn, it's my wife Kim. It's really good to work through this church planting training with you. Our session is on church administration. I'm sure that you've enjoyed all the other sessions that have gone before us. And if you're working through the little manual that has been provided for church planting, we're going to be working through some of the material starting from about page 128. So you're welcome to follow along as we go through this material. Kim and I have been on eldership here at Cornerstone Church since January 2011. It's been a real privilege for us, and many people have asked me how it is that you balance eldership, ministry and admin. And it's been quite tricky because the challenge is it's not how I personally balance admin and eldership, but how do these very different teams actually get to work together. And so we want to work through that. Obviously, Kim and I find ourselves in a very unique space where we're on eldership and we run the admin. And so we've been employed as a specialist kind of function. How does that all work out for us? And so we hope that as we go through the material today, you'll find it helpful. We hope that you'll be able to glean something from our approach and something of the systems, ideas that we put together. And we really trust that at the end of this, that you will be able to use some of this in your context. As these different teams, the eldership team and the admin team, start to work together, I don't know if your lead guy is like this, but many lead elders find themselves in the space where I'm the visionary and I really don't want to be bothered with the detail, the administration. If I get bogged down with too much detail, I can't think. It just stifles my vision or my planning. And that certainly isn't the heart of administration. If we settle it right up front, admin does not lead the church. Admin is there to help. And we're all on team. So for Kim and I, we're on Marcus and Adele's team. So Marcus and Adele, they're our lead elders. So they lead the admin, they lead the eldership team, and we're part of that eldership team. They provide vision to the eldership and they provide vision to our church. So we are part of that team. Everything that the eldership do, we do as a team that co-craft ideas together. And so it's important to remember that just because I'm the specialist admin guy, that let's say we're talking about apostolic work and all the rest of it, there's no space for them to say, okay, Glenn, you keep quiet because you're the admin guy. Or we're talking about the prophetic or evangelism, so therefore Glenn and Kim, you keep quiet. You don't really have much to say here because you're the admin guy. That's not it. We're called as a team together. We're called to keep our focus on what Jesus has for us as a local church, that's locally and apostolically. And so each of us, we co-craft as an eldership team. We co-craft this thing together. And so it's really important that it's not just a clerical function that the admin team fulfills. It's a co-crafting of what we need to do together. And so as this team works together, I remember some of you will know Keir Taylor. He had this picture once of pioneering a new territory. And people arrive in this 4x4, and we've got all the gifts, the Ephesians 4 gifts, we've got them all inside the car. And I realized as he was talking that if the evangelist doesn't take the pastor seriously or doesn't take the teacher seriously, or the teacher doesn't take the evangelist seriously, and then there's no cohesion between the team. And so you're breaking into new territory, but the team is disjointed. We don't value each other's input. The pioneers will break open ground, but once that ground's broken open, there certainly is a team that's required to come behind them and keep the work going. So we value each other on the team. The co-crafting on team is certainly very important. The heart of being on a team is certainly that one of a son or a daughter. Many of you heard this analogy. A son or a daughter is family. They hold the DNA, and that DNA is what helps us to multiply what we're doing throughout the life of the church. I'm going to read a verse to you. Please feel free to come along or read with me. I'm going to read to you John chapter 8, verse 35. I'm reading from the NLT version. It says, "A slave is not a permanent member of the family, but a son is part of the family forever." A son is part of the family forever. We carry the DNA. You've heard the phrase "son in the house." And so if we're working against this 8 to 4 mindset because I'm the admin team, No. Everybody on team, everybody that's church paid for that matter of fact, need to have that heart of what we're called to. It might be easy for the elders to know we have a call in our lives, but my encouragement to everyone on our under the employment of our church is that we have a call as a church. We're all part of that call as a church. The heart of what we do is very, very important. And so if we're working this is my job and that's not my job, actually that will turn out to be unhelpful, and we don't want to be working like that. I have an example for you. I hope it works. It's an American sporting example of two different types of sports. So one's a basketball, other one's the gridiron, American football. So the basketball teams are a much smaller team. And here's some stats for you. The basketball team will have 5 on the court during the match, and there are 11 that are part of the team. Now, when you've got 5 on the court, the teams or the guys on the court are working quite in a general role. Yes, they might be good at certain things, but they have a very general space where everyone knows how to do everything, sort of thing. And maybe if you're church planting and your church is small, that's the kind of space that you find yourself in. In the gridiron example, the stats are that we have 11 on the field, and there could be up to 46 people on the team on match day. Now, can you imagine that size of a team? It's very possible that those guys with very specific specialist functions, they don't get to see the whole team. And in fact, the relationships between the whole team might be strained because one guy on the one end of the team doesn't really understand or spend time with guys on the other side of the team. Relationships within team is the message I want to bring. Relationships within team are key. Even if your team is small or large, you have to keep on working at relationships. What was it? the phrase that I'm trying to remember is, the kingdom of God is the kingdom of right relationships. The kingdom of God is the kingdom of right relationships. So no matter how big or small we are, we need to keep working on those relationships together. If our relationships take strain, then the offenses, the space for picking up offense is huge, and we don't want to be landing up fighting the wrong fight. We want to fight this fight together. We want to keep the main one, the main thing. Let's keep Jesus center stage, and let's keep what he's called us to do in our focus. Let's do that which he's called us to do. Very often churches have a flat structure. And admin isn't there to change that structure to become some hierarchical space. That's not the idea of administration. Administration really is part of the team, and admin allows vision to flow. Admin empowers vision, and it does exactly what we're called to do. It supports what the church is called to do. So that's really what we want to do. In the Bible, there's, when you do your whole Bible reading plan and you land up hitting 1 Corinthians, you start reading 1 Corinthians, you make your way through, and then the administrators hit chapter 12. And we all get excited because right there in the Bible is our right to live, our right to exist. It mentions, in the spiritual gifts, it mentions administration. So I'm going to read some of those verses for you. I'm going to read it together. I'm going to try to put it into context and try to take some things out of that. So we're going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 1 right now. It says this: "Now, concerning spiritual gifts, brothers, I do not want you to be uninformed." So right at the beginning of this chapter, it's talking about everyone. Don't be uninformed about spiritual gifts, all of them. In verse 4 to 7, it says, "There are a variety of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are a variety of service, but the same Lord. There are a variety of activities, but the same God who empowers them all in everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good." 2 thoughts. It is God who empowers everyone, and it is for the common good. We are all part of the same team. I don't ever want to forget that I'm part of a team. I don't lead this team. I have a role to play in this team. And I want to make sure that my part in the team is done well. And so then we step to verse 28, and it says, "Now, you are the body of Christ and individually members of it. And God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healing, helping, administrating, and various kinds of tongues. Now that word administrating, when I was saying to you, we'll get to celebrate because administration is in the Bible, is apparently from a nautical phrase. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the original text, but it's more to the liking of a captain, a director, to lead, to govern. It's someone who gets something, it kind of leads everybody into it. And we all know that an eldership, those 3 Ds, discipline, direction, and doctrine, is that direction that admin provides is key for where we as a church want to go and want to do things. And so even though we have specialists that are more comfortable with the detail of admin, that administration is part of everyone on the team actually. Even though that everybody has a specific gift and we all express it in different ways, we want to all focus on the fact that this is not my space, and so I don't step into the apostolic. It really would be silly to think, well, Glenn, you don't ever have to think of getting involved in apostolic trips or even think about the apostolic. All you need to do is the clerical work that gets chucked your way. That wouldn't excite me at all. What excites us is that we're part of a team, and that God has called me to think and do the apostolic work, to be sent out, to be part of the bigger picture of who we are, to be involved in the prophetic, to ignite people, to teach into people's lives. And yes, we have different giftings, but that doesn't stop anybody, including elders who are visionary elders, being part of administration. We're never going to get away from admin. It's a bit like dishes at home. Dishes and washing, they never go away. So it's dishes. Well, it's admin. And we want to make sure that we have a view of what admin that needs doing and who's doing what. So you're never going to be able to let it go completely, but there will be people on your team that you get exposed to that will be able to do it better or more efficient than you will. So let's empower them. The word administration in Acts chapter 6, or the admin of the church, got handed to deacons. But I'm convinced from what we read there is that it's not only for deacons. And so if it's a directing role, if elders are providing vision and direction to the church and leaders in the church, well then certainly, as we understand that definition of admin, there's that leadership of taking people through. And so there is definitely place for administration to be on an eldership, or very much part of what the elders do. The other thing about an eldership team or church structure is that it's not an organization, but it is organic. And so I think that's the thing we fight is this organic going to stifle? Is this organization going to stifle? Where's the balance? Are we going to be totally chaotic and everything just happens, or how does it get put together? If you have a quick look at creation, God is not a God of chaos. We see that. He's very organized, but God doesn't lead an organization. Okay, and so it's that space where God is very organic. Everything happens for a reason. God has put this thing together. So can we follow His Spirit? Can we be organic? Can admin be flexible? We really want to make sure that everybody on the team is flexible to what God is calling us to do. What is the Spirit saying to us right now? And your admin teams and structures need to be able to support that. We don't want to settle for chaos. And so simple things like everybody needs to arrive for a meeting. You need to promote that. You don't just arrive when you feel like arriving. We want to be able to work together as a team. As far as finances go, do we just spend like we want to spend? Well, you'll quickly find out that you run out of money soon. But if you have lots of money and you just spend under the guise that, hey, we're faithing it and we'll see, I'm sure God will sort things out. Actually, that's not going to work. It's not going to be helpful to you. Yes, we are called to walk a road of faith and step out in faith. And if you're doing that, by all means, please don't see what I'm not saying. I'm saying that we don't want to be disrespectful to where God has called us to administrate our finances properly. We do want to walk in faith. But there's lots of paperwork. There's lots of bits and pieces that do need to be taken care of as far as managing the finances go. Paper trails, filing, electronic systems. We don't want those things lying around in the mess. We want those things to be able to support that which the church is called to do. And as far as the law goes, wherever you find yourself, and Kim will touch on it a little later, is that there's always going to be some sort of legal requirement, and we want to make sure that those things are kept in place. God is a God of order. He does not want confusion. We all want to be able to work towards something specific that He's called us to in this season. And so He's not running an organization. What Kim's going to do now is going to take us through some of the benefits of good administration. Thanks, Kim.
Hello, everyone. So for the organic, freeing life of God to be in your church, you actually need administration to be good. There's so many benefits to doing this right. A friend of mine, she's got 3 daughters, and at her kitchen tea, an older lady advised her she needs to be organized. And that's with every family. Otherwise you don't go anywhere, you don't plan anything, you don't do anything. There are details involved, especially with small children. You need things to pack. Those are all administrative bits and pieces. And it's the same with the church. So good administration gets the vision done. If you're a visionary and you're vague about who needs to get what done and where they're going to do it, then the vision just stays a good intention. Good administration brings clarity. Everyone knows what they're supposed to do and how they will do it. When there's clarity, you don't run into the situation where some are working harder than others and then they burn out because of too much responsibility. Good administration helps with expectations, and the difference between expectation and what actually happens is happiness. And so we definitely don't want that to be too much into the negative. And when we do that, everyone's relationships flourish because expectations are met. So good administration brings clarity to that. Good administration is good for finance and paperwork. Helps you sleep at night because you're not worried about what the authorities are going to be doing when they come and check up on you, all that kind of thing. Or when you need something from them, they want to make sure you got everything in order and you want to be that person that has everything in order. Good administration benefits the apostolic because when your finances are in order, you begin to prioritize or plan how you're going to add to that, how you're going to spend in the apostolic without jeopardizing some other thing. Good administration helps everyone plan their own time. You don't want a vague calendar full of events you can't remember that you committed to or that somebody else committed to you on your behalf. Double booked appointments strain relationships. And that is what the church is about, is keeping up those good relationships. And it comes down to good administration at times. You want to sort out bottlenecks, and you want to do that quickly, and good administration helps with that. So it's like a field full of stones that you want to clear. You usually start with the big stones, and then the next level of stones, the next size stones, they look the biggest, and soon you're getting down, the smallest ones look like the biggest ones, and you through the whole field. So when you're not sure why certain things aren't working out, good administration helps you quickly identify what it is so you can fix it up and move through that thing and sort it out until you find the next bottleneck and sort through that. Good administration also helps you do the apostolic because it frees up your time to get out there rather than be staying at home having to deal with emergencies that cropped up here. And so if you had just planned before, those fires could have not started and you could have carried on with the apostolic. So that's what you're trying to do with good administration, to free up time.
That's right, yeah.
And then good administration gives the church a great testimony of faithfulness. If you're faithful with a little, you will be faithful with much. And I've seen the point of that is if you can do something small very well, you just have to repeat that and then you're doing something big very well. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Kim. So I have a couple of tips for the lead guy. What's going to be helpful? The one big tip is that you do not need to be bogged down with details. The truth is, as we've spoken and said, that you're not going to get away from getting involved with some of the details, but you should not. And so you need to be looking to raise up leaders. You need to be looking to say, well, what's causing the weightiness? What's causing the grief? How do we address the details properly? And so if you're going to be giving direction in this, let's make sure that you are giving your admin team direction. If they're not getting direction from you, then they're making it up themselves, and that's not going to be helpful to you. If you have the ability to look around the room, let's trust that God will show you who you can turn to. How do you recognize the right skill, the right people, and you can raise them up and you can release them into that space. They can free you up from those details that are distracting or taking too much time out of your day. Then stay close to that person so that they can have the space where they know they're working very closely to you, and then that will set you up for success. You'll be able to spend most of your time on what God has called you to do, and the rest of it is like you're being supported. The base is good. Your admin is taken care of. When you are working with an admin team, Mr. Lead Elder, let's make sure that when you appoint someone, you're giving them authority for starters, and then you're deciding what the boundaries are for them. Working with different types of strengths of leaders, different capacities of people. Some people will have a huge vision for what they think needs to get done, but if you don't decide what the boundaries are, then you can't be too upset that they start working outside the boundaries. If you tell them what the boundaries are, you're going to get the job done. We don't want to stifle any creativity, but we're saying this is what you need doing. Help them understand that this is what you want them to do, and then that's where what you want them to work within. If you do get frustrated, let me encourage you, talk openly about it. Do not be intimidated by admin or the people running admin, please. You're in charge. The elders lead the church. You do need to be talking through. Relationships are key. And if we're thinking of the big picture, we want to work through a lot more projects together. We do want to do more of what God has called us to. So if something's not working, you need to talk about it. You need to be able to call it to order, call a team meeting, and chat through those things which you feel are not working. Maybe there's a perspective that you haven't seen, or there's been a roadblock that just caused some problems for the team. But work through those frustrations as early as you possibly can. In terms of working with the team, help them see the big picture all the time. Us detailed guys, sometimes it's a bit like a lemming. You get to just move the box around the whole time, and you're happy to move the box around the whole time. But if I can keep the team focused on the bigger picture, that inspires them to the more. So remind your team often about that bigger picture. Especially when it comes to finances, make sure that you rule the finances. Don't let the finances rule you. Make sure that you have a tight hold on what the finances are doing. Make sure that the checks and balances are in place with the people that are managing the finances. And that can turn really ugly if it goes sad. But you do want to make sure that you're in touch with them. You don't have to manage the finances. You just need to stay in touch with the finances. And then trust and have faith that the Lord will provide you with wisdom as you lead the team. Okay, so there's a small little snippet of tips. What we're going to do now is we're going to discuss some systems. Kim will lead the little list, and we'll just interject from time to time. Thanks, Kim.
Okay, so my favorite verse for this to inspire me to admin is this. It's in Proverbs 24, 30-34, and it's from the Message. One day, I walked by the field of an old lazy bones, and then I passed the vineyard of a lout. They were overgrown with weeds, thick with thistles, all the fences broken down. I took a long look and pondered what I saw. The fields preached me a sermon and I listened. A nap here, a nap there, a day off here, a day off there. Sit back, take it easy. Do you know what comes next? Just this. You can look forward to a dirt-poor life with poverty as your permanent house guest. And that's good motivation for administration, because if you leave it here and you leave it there, that's when things get out of hand. That's when the fences break down and the weeds become a big job. They're not just little weeds, they're huge weeds that require more work. So keeping up with it is just key. You must have a system. Even in your own life, it's good to have a system. Otherwise, your brain is trying to remember everything that needs to be done. So it's like holding some marbles. You can only hold so many marbles in your hand, and otherwise one is falling off and you're losing your marbles, literally. So it just reminds me of a hen with 9 chicks. She can only count to 3, so she does 3, 3, and 3. So, but that's it. 9 that's the limit. You don't want that. You need to find a system where you're writing down those things at least. And when they're written down, your brain actually can let go of it. So personal system, church system, once it's in the system, it's safe. That's how I picture it. Even my children know if they They want glue. They ask me while I'm watching TV. I'm like, just write it down, arbitrary piece of paper, leave it on the shelf, I'll find it. It's in the system, it's safe. So I'm not going to go through specific software products that we use because it's different across different countries.
Yeah.
They have different laws, communication. WhatsApp's big in South Africa, not so big in America, not allowed in China. So it's not really about which system you use, even for all of these different things. There's a myriad of resources on the internet, but the key here is ownership. It's the kind of system you want to own. It's the kind of system you use, bottom line. It's the system that your team like to use. It's a tool. It's not going to do the job. You actually have to use the tool to do the job. So even if it's rudimentary, even if it's paper at first, even if you've got a really old lady and she doesn't know how to use a computer, but this is your best resource, that can still be a great system because she is owning it. So that's my thing on. You must have a system, personally and with the team. And it must be used. So with finance and spending, I've come to this understanding which has been very helpful. There's two sides to finance. The one side is spending, and the other side is bookkeeping. And they only briefly meet for a moment when you actually make the payments. So spending is more like a passionate lover. When they're there, you're just dreaming about what you're going to do together and how you're going to spend this money. And when they're not there, you're worried that they're not going to come back. And when will they come back? And it keeps you sleepless. It keeps you up at nights either way. So spending is a passionate thing, whereas accounting is more like a high school mistress, you know? The long nose, very tall, grey outfit. And she's got your eye on you, you know? But she makes the rules, and at some point, you're going to have to deal with her. Not exactly passionate feelings around that part of things. Like what I say is I've done impulsive spending before, but I've never done impulsive bookkeeping. So very different emotional spaces, and if you understand that, it just brings some clarity, because sometimes with the spending you're trying to add a strictly administrative feel to it because of the accounting, but it's not like that. It's actually an art. Cash flow is not a science, it is an art, and accountants actually spend a lot of their time just trying to figure out what's coming in, what do you have, what's going out, what actually can be done right now. With taking the future into account and the past, it's really an art. Whereas bookkeeping, there's no lefts or rights. There's one way to do it, and you do it. And you must do it every day so that it's up to date, like the good Lord made the earth to be up to date every day when the sun rises. So that's the ultimate you're waiting for, you're heading or aiming for with the bookkeeping. You want to be up to date as much as possible. All right, and then wherever you live, there is a tax man. And you need to make sure that you know what he wants from you. Some countries love NGOs, they understand the benefits, they rely on PBOs, which is public benefit organizations, or non-profit associations. They embrace you, and they say to you, you know what, you can get all you want, or you can get your donations and you don't have to pay any tax. But you need to make sure on an annual basis that is still the agreement, that nothing has changed since last year, and that we're all good. You might want to still say, this is how it was purely donations, and you need to declare that. So just make sure you are up to date with that, you keep in touch with that, because that thing, especially in South Africa, that monster has a lot of hairy queues and many hours for you to do prepping in a government building. So don't let that thing slip. Staff. If you get to the stage where you're employing staff, no matter what the labour laws are, they're quite strict in South Africa, but you need to have some sort of formal agreement while you're still friends, something that you can refer to if, and hopefully not when, things go a bit awry. You need to have that safety net just as a formal agreement as to what is expectations. Again, we want to manage expectations, and that is a good starting place, is with some sort of agreement, a written agreement. Then there's a lot of volunteers. We don't like to call them volunteers. They're ministers of the Lord, actually. But let's just call them volunteers because they aren't being paid, just to differentiate them from the staff. And for them, they're going to be rosters and more rosters and little rosters and overlapping rosters. And maybe it's all in the same system. Maybe you get it right and it's all in the same system. But more than administration, it's an issue of discipling. It's where the rubber hits the road. It's where integrity comes into play. It's where teamwork comes into play. Stewardship. You want to use that time of volunteering, whatever it is, whatever administrative task they're busy doing, to hone those things, to use them to disciple and bring those different aspects of stewardship into play. If you get to the place where you're looking after buildings, you definitely want to make sure there's insurance. Insurance is it's a big thing in South Africa. You want to make sure everything's insured, because when something breaks and it's not insured, it affects that spending, you know what I mean? So, in a bad way. You also want to look after the IT, try and get that right first off. My take on like having something done professionally versus by volunteers is, if you don't have the volunteer, if you don't have the right skills within your church, then I would pay for it. I would try and get away from that until you have the gift in your church, but try and get it right. So you don't want to always have professionals. You don't always want to have like professional guitarists and things like that. I think for me personally, my opinion is you definitely want people in your church who have bought into the vision rather than professionals, but professionals can help you cover a critical gap in your growth.
Yeah, we're a family. We need to be working this together.
Cool. Then communication is a big thing. Maybe you get to the stage where you start with a small media team, and that thing needs to grow. Maybe you need to put a sign outside your building, just handwritten, says graphic designer needed. You know, then they will understand. But you need to have something in place, because that has just become a real part of a lot of communication within churches, within the world. And so you want to start that right and then grow that from there. Then there's all kinds of communication methods, email, social media. And you want to, there's different systems for that. So you just need to research what's good for you. There's a lot of free systems. Maybe they'll just put on their tag, and that's how they get their recompense, for their advertising via your emails. But you also need to just be aware that you know how people are communicating. So we had a site, and we were sending them emails, but on the actual software product, you can mostly see who is opening their email. So as being read, and none of them were opening it. So it was a site full of students, and we had to use short message servicing,
text messages.
Text messages, and because that's what they were responding to. That was a bit earlier in the time and space of text messaging, and that was a key role for us. Email, age-old, reliable thing, was not working here, and so you do need to change. You do need to be communicating as other people will hear it.
Receive it, yes.
Yes, so you need to communicate like they want, not necessarily how you want. Then you're going to get to events and catering, and there are a lot of registration and ticketing systems now on the internet, and they're very useful and they're very helpful, and a lot of them actually issue free tickets. So if you are looking at volumes of people and you're looking to manage it this way, there are many systems that can help you, and it will be local to where you are physically at.
That 11th commandment.
Yeah, but the 11th commandment for me is, my 11th commandment is thou shalt RSVP. But clearly that hasn't made it to the Bible, because not many people listen to it. So that's what makes things tough. And sometimes that ticketing system is not foolproof, and you're just going to have to, as you grow, you're going to get a feeling of the numbers, and you just need to be comfortable with your estimates. You're going to have to suck it out of your thumb, and that's, sometimes you miss it. and that just doesn't need to give you heart failure. The Lord will provide, and people can see how much food there is and do the math, and they do, and there will be enough. All right. We have a task management system that we use in the media team called Trello, but you need to look. There's many systems now, and some have some options locked, and this is open. So you really have to see what you want to do. It might be a hybrid of things, but use it. Then the calendar. This is one system. So just like what I was saying about hybrid is sometimes, for me, I use pen and paper for my grocery list, but I love digital everything, but groceries didn't work on digital. It takes too long. I can write something way quicker than I can type something on my phone. And so it becomes a hybrid. Hybrid systems are fine as long as you're using them. But with the calendar, you definitely want electronic for that. Maybe you've got a sneaky side paper business going on, that's fine, but for everyone to actually log in and look, you need online calendar, because otherwise, as soon as you print it, it's out of date. That's what we found. You print it today, tomorrow, something's wrong.
Something's changed.
Yeah. Then you want a data, something that can keep your members' names and details in, because the best way to shepherd people, the first thing to start with, when I think, okay, let's shepherd these people, is make a list, write their names down, and that's what a shepherding or a names database is. It's a list of people.
Gets bigger, yes.
Yeah, and especially when the group gets bigger, you don't want it in somebody's handbag, so it needs to be accessible so you can use it. Yeah, and that's it for me from systems.
Thank you, Kim. As you can see, there are many systems that we need to take care of, but we've come to the end of our session with you. We really trust that it's been helpful. I know that it's a world of detail, but we pray that God will lead you, that God will guide you, He'll give you the wisdom, He'll set you up with the right people, give you the skill that you need, and that you're able to do that which God has called you to do, that you're able to keep your focus on that which God has called you. And I trust that you'll be able to empower, that you'll be able to recognize the leaders, and that you guys will be just flying as a church, impacting the community that God has called you to. So God bless. All the best.
God bless.